Hey guys, welcome to episode 0 of my Zero Progression series. Yes, the numbering is a little bit wonky, considering the fact that I started at -1, but I wanted to show a little bit of true experience of how I actually know, how much I know the character, how much I actually play it, and I think the bossing experience from episode -1 might actually give you a good indication for that. Now, in going into episode 0 of this progression series, pun intended, by the way, I wanted to show you more of everything you can do and everything I like to do in order to prepare a character before I actually start leveling on it. Right, everything you can do with already existing resources and some friends. So, I start off by doing a little bit of nodes. Nodes are very crucial to your damage, and especially when I'm playing on a character like mine, on an account like mine, I have more nodes than I need. So I basically have a look at what I need to do. In my case, I basically upgrade all my skills completely on my V matrix, and I just find 7 different trios for 0 because it has 10 different skills. And I just upgrade all of them. Yeah, it's obviously not going to be the same for most people, but I would recommend, as I will show later, to go to your Discord, to your class Discord, or to ask some friends that are maining the character, and doing whatever's necessary to have the proper nodes, both for your 5th job damage, but also so you don't get screwed over later when it comes to 6th job. Because for 6th job, if you want to unlock certain masteries, you need to have certain skills maxed on your 5th job, on your V matrix. So before you jump into just dumping a bunch of nodes onto a character, whether it's from event or from your storage, I would highly recommend just looking at your character information, see what you need, and just go from there. And that's basically it for nodes. I also like to organize my nodes by order of importance. So I like to put my masteries first, and then I like to put my 5th jobs basically in order of how much damage they give me. I also had a look at the inner ability for the character. There's a lot of interesting things about the 0 inner ability, but what's I think most important or more interesting to see is that even though I already had buff duration out of nowhere before I even started working on the character, it's not a character that needs buff duration. It generally wants a cooldown skip, 20% cooldown skip, and then whatever damage you can get on 2nd and 3rd line for party bossing, because that resets your critical bind, which basically helps bind the boss for longer. And for solo bossing, you can either go for a 20% boss on your 1st line, which adds generally more damage, or, as I'm going to probably aim for, attack speed +1. Attack speed doesn't actually give that much damage to 0 because in some situations it already hits the attack speed cap, and alpha and beta have different attack speeds. But I do probably want to still go for it because it gives around 3% FD based on a friend of mine, a 0 friend of mine, and also it helps with mobility a little bit more, and I value how a character feels a little bit more than damage. So I'm probably going to go for an optimal solo inner ability of attack speed, boss damage, and damage to abnormal, or cooldown skip, depending on what I hit first, probably cooldown skip. Yeah, another thing I did was go for familiars. You can see as I was going through the video that I managed to hit a bit of healing fams, which will be useful later on for when I do well in Vihela. And I also got a medium drop rate. That's quite a useful familiar to have early on before I go for epics or uniques. It gives me like an extra 50% drop rate. So when I actually go for my drop rate gear, I'll have a nice little boost between that and Holy Symbol when I actually pop my boxes in order to get Oz rings, like accessories, pitch items, way down the line and all of that. Yeah, my next order of business is usually going for the planner. Maple Planner is the little book icon on the left side of your screen, or you have an actual hotkey for it if you want to add it. It's very useful. It's a very strong tool in this game. It helps you set up your bosses, difficulties. It gives you like a little click, a little button to teleport directly to the bosses from the boss rooms, even from the waiting rooms, that is. It helps remind you what dailies you're working on, like daily bosses, weekly bosses, but also daily content, right? Monster Park, MPE, the dailies, the weekly symbols for both Vanishing Journey or like Arcane River and Grandis. So those are generally pretty good to go for before you start your character, just to keep track. And you can change your bossing column on your planner as you go. Helps to keep track of how you're progressing, especially when you have the limited amount of crystals. If you don't cap already, then it helps you keep track of a total amount of 14 bosses and or bosses that you need some drops from. Right, like Arcarium, Golux for the daily on that character. Things like that. Another important system or important database or knowledge base that we have is in class discords. That one is really highly recommended, but obviously not necessary, right? It's a game and you want to play it to your enjoyment. But the class discords have really useful tools. People that have already made the character or the class and have gathered most of the information that you will ever need to start your character and to know what it is you want to do to progress, what's the most efficient route. You could always choose not to go efficiently, right? But it's probably better if you knew what options you had and some quirks about the character and class. So for me, I looked at it mostly to make sure I have the right idea when it comes to inner abilities, to the V-Matrix, to the future 6 job, and just a bunch of other things like cooldown hat, how much I actually need. Zero also has a funny thing with Lucky Hat, because Zero's weapon is actually technically part of the CRA set. That's like the best way to do it. There's a scroll that drops from Vellum that puts your weapon as part of the CRA set, even though you can progress it to have arcane level stats. Like arcane weapon level stats, it's still part of the CRA set. So in order to not break either arcane set or Abso set from 5 set, because the weapon doesn't count, you usually go for a Lucky Hat, which drops from any of the CRA bosses, and that's your early game. And after you lib, your liberation weapon is a Lucky Hat as well, so that replaces that Lucky Hat, because you can only have one lucky item at a time. And then you can move back to CRA and or move to Eternals. Now, I'm probably opting against it, simply for the fact that I don't think I'm going to need to min-max the damage or to greed that damage too much on my Zero up until my liberation, especially considering the fact that I'm mostly going to be carried for the earlier months, or like the start, the moment I hit 255. But also because once I hit the 3rd or 4th month, where the bosses for the liberation start getting difficult, via like H. Lotus, H. Damien, etc. At that point, the liberation system will already be changed. And by then, I will probably be progressed enough to be able to solo everything, even without a Lucky Hat being like a little bit of a damage boost. Zero weapon is an interesting one. You can see me potentialing it here because the potential, the flame, the stars all actually move from CRA to Abso to Arcane. Everything actually stays. The only thing that changes when you lib is the weapon gets 22 stars immediately. But the potential, the flame, everything else stays the same according to the Maple Story Discord, the Zero Discord I mean, and my Zero friend. So I see no harm in actually giving it some better stats right now to help me with my progression. And I'm just gonna let you see what happened because it was pretty interesting, and I would keep focus on the amount of meso I had. Okay. This didn't take long at all. Okay. God. This is so stupid. Oh my god. This is like for the secondary and the weapon. Oh my god. So yeah, as you saw in that little live clip, I hit a 3-line attack at basically 2 bill from Epic. It's a very nice start to my 0, and it gives me a lot of motivation to start progressing at the moment Hyperburning comes over from the Demon Slayer collab. Now, if you're sharp, you might have noticed me say something about the weapon counts as both the weapon and the secondary. Now, I haven't mentioned it yet, but Zero's weapon and secondary slot work a little bit different. Because Alpha and Beta are 2 separate characters, each of them have their own weapon. Lapis and Lazuli, I think. Now, the way it works is that one weapon is always in the weapon slot and the other one is in the secondary slot. Whichever character is out, the weapon is in the weapon slot and the other character that's in the back is in the secondary slot. That makes it so the potential counts as both weapon and secondary at any given point. And not only that, it's also true for the flame. Now, as you might know, usually secondaries don't have flames, or basically always. The only exception is 0. Which is why 0 weapon flames work like non-KMS advantage flames. What I mean by that is that the flame tiers go, instead of from level 4 to level 7 with rainbow flames, it goes from level 2 to level 5. And not only that, the amount of lines you get per roll with your flames, doesn't matter if it's eternal, red, black, whatever, is anywhere between 1 line and 4 lines. So if you don't know too much about flames, don't worry too much about what I'm saying right now, it's mostly for the flame geeks among us. But the point is that because the flame applies twice to both the weapon and the secondary, they needed to nerf the value that it actually gives. Which is why the tiers are lower, and when you see me eventually flame my weapon, not in this episode sadly, then the settle is much lower than what you're used to seeing. So yeah, this is basically the end of episode 0. If you enjoyed, I really hope you like, subscribe, do all the YouTube things. I'm really looking forward to playing this character. It's gonna start getting more and more episodes and more gains starting on March 18th when the Demon Slayer collab comes out and we get the Hyperburning. I hope you're excited for that as much as I am. And I'm gonna leave you with this short clip of me attempting normal Lotus after the upgrades you've seen in episode 0. Yeah, see you later.